So welcome to my review of the 2020 Maths Specialist paper. The examining team for this subject have been pretty strong typically, and this year seems to be no exception. Very hard to fault the paper. Let's have a look. So it's a pretty standard instructions on the cover. Inside we've got the mark breakdown. We'll say a bit more about that on the next screen. The standard instructions to candidates. Minor changes from year to year in here. A reminder not to use erasable or gel pens because down the side here, do not write in this area. It'll be cut off once the spine's been cut off. The booklet gets scanned, and the scanning machine is pretty hot apparently and can actually delete this kind of ink. And of course on this exam, most of the questions are worth more than 2. So this instruction to show valid working, the specialist students know anyway. Then the stats on this paper so far, I'll update them when TISC summary stats are released and we get the actual examiner's report, but that can be up until about March of 2021. We might be waiting. But you can see the number of questions here, 21 this year, was reflecting back in the sample exam that was kind of brought out in 2015 so that teachers could see what was going on. But I must admit I prefer this type of exam. Lots of smaller questions giving students lots of fresh starts to, for each topic. The actual mark allocation between them is pretty, sort of reflects the 35-65 split. Total of 135. So you can see the totals have been dropping for a few years, but now it seems to have bottomed out around sort of mid 130s. So that's what looks like we're aiming at. On the 1s and 2s, we can see there were just a handful this year, really. 21% of the marks on the paper, which is sort of pretty much the second lowest apart from the very first exam back in 2016 there. So just a reminder to the kids, this subject is really basically show everything that you're up to. 7 rounding instructions, but most of those, in fact, I don't think any of them would have actually attracted any marks. It's just to help the students when they're kind of doing an answer and it looks pretty ugly, that when they get their decimal approximation, then most of the time 2 decimal places seem to be the go on this paper. Right, let's get into the questions.